murmuring tongue of a celestial fire. So we ended with that because something breaks through the earthly coverings, and it is a grace and a beauty of spiritual light. It is even a murmuring tongue of a celestial fire. Now we continue. Ourself and a high stranger whom we feel. It is and acts unseen as if it were not. It follows the line of sempiternal birth, yet seems to perish with its mortal frame. Well, sempiternal, of course, means enduring forever, everlasting. So ourself and this high stranger whom we feel, which is our psychic being, it is and acts unseen as if it were not. Because for most of us in our daily life, we have all the problems of life. We have to earn. We have to earn a living. We have to take care of children, family. We have to do so many things. And so this high stranger is there, and many of us feel it is there, but it acts unseen, as if it were not. And Mother says we must bring that to the front. We have to bring the psychic being to the front. And yet it follows this line of sempiternal birth, this birth that endures forever. And yet it seems to perish with its mortal frame because we die. Now, this is interesting because some of us do remember past lives or something of a past life, and yet we should not pay too much attention to it. And why is that? Basically, unfortunately, because the ego gets involved. It says, oh, I was a king or a queen in my last birth. I was a great ruler in my last birth. I was the leader of an army, etc., etc. So we have to forget those things because we must only be concerned with the present. And Sri Aurobindo now speaks of the present. Assured of the apocalypse to be, it reckons not the moments and the hours. Great, patient, calm, it sees the centuries pass, awaiting the slow miracle of our change in the sure, deliberate process of world force and the long march of all-revealing time. I asked Nolini and Alok if they would give me their understanding of the apocalypse to be, capital A, notice. The dictionary tells us that an apocalypse is any revelation or prophecy concerning usually a cataclysm in which the forces of good permanently triumph over the forces of evil. Nolini says the apocalypse is the finality that is to happen, the divine manifestation. Alok says the apocalypse is revelation, lifting of the veil of ignorance for a while, giving admittance to a deeper knowledge and disclosure of hidden truths. These experiences begin to occur in the consciousness that is being lifted out of the ignorant state towards the freedom of the spirit. Two rather slightly different views of what the apocalypse is. Yes, it is a revelation, but Nolini's lines, the finality that is to happen, the divine manifestation. And from here we will go to the next page, which is 49, and carry on, because this canto is so packed with such beauty and such vastness. So what is this going to happen, this process of world force and this long march of all-revealing time? Well, it is the origin and the master clue. A silence overhead, an inner voice, a living image seated in the heart, an unwalled wideness, and a fathomless point. The truth of all these cryptic shows in space. We have a couple of words here, not unusual, but very, very prominent. Unwalled is not enclosed at all, as if, or within a wall. It's an unwalled wideness and a fathomless point. It's a living image seated in the heart with a silence that is overhead and an inner voice. And that is the truth of all these cryptic shows in space. Cryptic, of course, is mysterious in meaning, puzzling, secret, occult. Now, Sri Aurobindo capitalizes the word space, and I would like to quote one thing from the Life Divine from him. It is possible in pure mentality to disregard the movement of event and the disposition of substance and realize the pure movement of conscious force, which constitutes space and time. These two are then merely two aspects of the universal force of consciousness, which in their intertwined interaction comprehend the warp and woof of its action upon itself. And to a consciousness higher than mind, which should regard our past, present, and future in one view, containing and not contained in them, not situated at a particular moment of time for its point of prospection, time might well offer itself as an eternal present. And to the same consciousness, not situated at any particular point of space, but containing all points and regions in itself, space also might well offer itself as a subjective and indivisible extension, no less subjective than time. So Sri Aurobindo tells us here that both time and space are eternally present. They are subjective, not objective. People often ask me, what is this warp and woof of its action upon itself? Well, if we think of the unit that on which people weave cloths and fabrics, one direction is the woof, and the other direction is the warp. It's that simple. It's these 2 points, one going horizontally and the other going vertically. Now, we have the truth of all these cryptic shows in space, the real towards which our strivings move, the secret, grandiose meaning of our lives. Well, there are two words here that are very, very important. And most important, I believe, is the real, which Sri Aurobindo often calls the real idea. So let's see what he says in the Life Divine. From our ascending point of view, we may say that the real is behind all that exists. It expresses itself intermediately in an ideal, which is a harmonized truth of itself. The ideal throws out a phenomenal reality of variable conscious being, which, inevitably drawn towards its own reality, tries at last to recover it entirely, whether by a violent leap or normally through the ideal which put it forth. It is this that explains the imperfect reality of human existence, as seen by the mind, the instinctive aspiration in the mental being towards a perfectibility ever beyond itself, towards the concealed harmony of the ideal and the supreme surge of the spirit, beyond the ideal to the transcendental. Again in the Life Divine, he says to us, an exclusive inner concentration on the real, the eternal, is possible. Even a self-immersion by which we can lose or put away the dissonances of the universe. That is so extraordinary. I'll read it again. An exclusive inner concentration on the real, the eternal, is possible. Even a self-immersion by which we can lose or put away the dissonances of the universe. And then we come to the line, the secret, grandiose meaning of our lives. Well, grandiose is characterized by greatness of scope. We often, in our current world, use grandiose as something a little pejorative. It's a little negative here. Oh, he had a grandiose idea. But not in Sri Aurobindo's time, and certainly not in his writings. Grandiose is always there, characterized by greatness of scope or intent. And this real, towards which our strivings move, this secret, grandiose meaning of our lives. And what is it all? Oh, these beautiful lines. A treasure of honey in the combs of God. A splendor burning in a tenebrous cloak. It is our glory of the flame of God, our golden fountain of the world's delight, an immortality cowled in the cape of death, the shape of our unborn divinity. Couple of definitions here, because he capitalizes splendor, which is a great light or a brilliance, something that outshines the others, a magnificent appearance. In a tenebrous cloak, interesting, because tenebrous means dark and gloomy. So this splendor is burning in a dark and gloomy cloak. Yes, it is our covering. And what is this splendor but the glory of the flame of God? It is also our golden fountain of the world's delight. And it's an immortality, cowled in the cape of death. Cowled is hooded. Many of the old, we can say sects or variations of the Christianic symbolism, the monks would wear a cowl, which is simply a covering, a hooded covering. So this immortality is cowled in the cape of death. Whoa. But it is the shape of our unborn divinity. And I want to go on a little more today because this is so powerful. It guards for us our fate in depths within, where sleeps the eternal seed of transient things. So there is an eternal seed that sleeps in transient things. Transient means passing with time, transitory, we could say. Always we bear in us a magic key, concealed in life's hermetic envelope. Now, hermetic is an interesting word here because it is having to do with the occult sciences, especially alchemy, something magical. But it also means that it's airtight. So this magic key is concealed in life's airtight envelope. That hermetic envelope is not affected by outward influence or power. Always we bear in us a magic key, concealed in life's hermetic envelope. And now he tells us more about what this magic key he's speaking of is. There are a lot of definitions, and it'll take a little time, but I'd like to go through it. A burning witness in the sanctuary regards through time and the blind walls of form. Sorry, I have to go back here. A burning witness in the sanctuary regards through time and the blind walls of form. A timeless light is in his hidden eyes. He sees the secret things no word can speak, and knows the goal of the unconscious world and the heart of the mystery of the journeying years. Well, first of all, who is this? This burning witness in the sanctuary. Sri Aurobindo often speaks of the witness self that looks with calm and detachment upon all our acts. But for me, this witness self is also the divine in our sanctuary, in our deepest soul, behind the heart. Do you know that Sri Aurobindo wrote a birthday message to a sadhak? I don't believe I've read it to you before, or recited it to you before, but let me do so. A veil behind the heart, a lid over the mind, keep us from the divine. Love and devotion rend the veil, and in the silence of the mind, the lid thins and vanishes. So we see that there is a veil behind the heart. Of course, because that is the psychic being. And it looks through time and even these blind walls of form. And a timeless light is in his hidden eyes. He sees the secret things no word can speak, and knows the goal of the unconscious world and the heart of the mystery of the journeying years. We'll go through a little bit here on the idea of form in Sri Aurobindo's yoga. Form is the basic means of manifestation. And without it, it may be said that the manifestation of anything is not complete. Even if the formless logically precedes form, yet it is not illogical to assume that in the formless, form is inherent and already existent in a mystic latency. Otherwise, how could it be manifested? And in the essays on the Gita, he says, each form is a symbol of some divine power, vibhuti, concealed in it, and to the seeing eye, each finite carries in it its own revelation of the infinite. And he shares with us in the Upanishads, practically, therefore, all form is only an operation of consciousness, impressing itself with presentations of its own workings. Again, he gives us in essays in philosophy and yoga, the form is the manifestation or appearance. The idea is the truth. The form is phenomenon. The idea is reality. And he has another one in the essays, Divine and Human. The form of that which is in time is or appears to be evanescent. But the self, the substance, the being that takes shape in that form is eternal and is one self, one substance, one being with all that is, all that was, all that shall be. But even the form is, in itself, eternal and not temporal, but it exists forever in possibility, in power, in consciousness, in the eternal. Now, a very unique statement from Letters on Yoga. Forms on earth do not last. And then in parentheses, he says to us, they do in other planes, end parentheses. Because these forms on earth, of course, are too rigid to grow, expressing the progress of the spirit. If they become plastic enough to do that, there is no reason why they should not last. And lastly, Mother, in her unique way, says, and ultimately all form is a symbol. All forms, our form is a symbol. Not a very brilliant one, I admit. So we continue for just a few more moments. A timeless light is hidden, is in his hidden eyes. And Sri Aurobindo says, light is primarily a spiritual manifestation of the divine reality, illuminative and creative. Material light is a subsequent representation or conversion of it into matter for the purposes of the material energy. And I may have read this before, but I will read it again because it is for me one of his greatest statements on the light. And we will end there. Our sense, by its incapacity, has invented darkness. In truth, there is nothing but light. Only it is a power of light either above or below our poor human vision's limited range. For do not imagine light is created by the suns. The suns are only physical concentrations of light, but the splendor they concentrate for us is self-born and everywhere. God is everywhere, and wherever God is, there is light. I guess I have to read from Mother. To my friend Dmitri von Morenschild. He was so moved when he showed me this. Such a powerful statement from Mother. The light is everywhere. The force is everywhere. And the world is so small. He sees the secret things no words can speak, and knows the goal of the unconscious world and the heart of the mystery of the journeying years. Thank you all for joining me today. It is such a joy for me to be with you all and to share the words of Sri Aurobindo and Mother. As you can see, very, very little comes from me because it all should come from them. And I thank you again. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Narad.